I never imagined a single email would cost my company $15 million and me my career. But whistleblowing comes with a price tag nobody warns you about. Stay until the end to discover how I rebuilt my life after corporate America tried to bury me. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk, scrolling through customer accounts like I did every day for the past 3 years at Meridian Financial Services. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting that familiar artificial glow that had become the backdrop to my professional life. My coffee was getting cold, the third cup that day, when I noticed it. A discrepancy. Small at first. Just a few account numbers that didn't match our internal database when cross-referenced with the transaction logs. Nothing major, I thought. Probably just a glitch in the system. I flagged it to my team lead, Marcus, who nodded absently and told me he'd look into it. Just document it in the system, Rachel. I'm sure it's nothing, he said without looking up from his monitor. That should have been the end of it. Just another Tuesday at a mid-sized financial services company in downtown Chicago. But something about those numbers kept nagging at me. Maybe it was intuition, or maybe it was the cybersecurity training I'd just completed the month before. Either way, I couldn't let it go. I stayed late that evening, after most of my colleagues had cleared out. The office took on that hollow, liminal quality that only comes after hours, when the phones stop ringing and you can hear the hum of the server room down the hall. I dug deeper into the logs, tracing the discrepancies back to their source. What I found made my stomach drop. It wasn't just a few account numbers. It was systematic. Someone had been accessing customer financial data, account numbers, balances, social security numbers, addresses, and exporting it in batches. Small enough to fly under the radar of our automated security systems, but consistent enough that over time, thousands of customer profiles had been compromised. I documented everything meticulously, screenshots and all. By midnight, I had a folder full of evidence. The next morning, I went straight to Marcus. I need to show you something, I said, placing my laptop on his desk. His eyes narrowed as he scrolled through my findings. This is concerning, he admitted. But let's not jump to conclusions. We need to verify this isn't just a system error. I've verified it, I insisted. Someone's been exporting customer data for at least 6 months. Leave it with me, he said finally. I'll take it up the chain. Don't discuss this with anyone else for now. I trusted him. That was my first mistake. A week passed with no updates. When I asked Marcus about it, he assured me the security team was investigating. 2 weeks in, and still nothing. My emails to the Chief Information Security Officer went unanswered. The pit in my stomach grew. Each day I watched more data being accessed, more customer information being exposed, and nobody seemed to be doing anything about it. I began to wonder if they were even investigating at all. During this time, I tried to go about business as usual. I attended our weekly team meetings, participated in the quarterly planning sessions, and even joined the company softball game that Saturday, all while carrying the weight of what I knew. The cognitive dissonance was exhausting. Smiling at executives in the elevator who might have been aware of the breach, making small talk with colleagues who had no idea their own personal information might be compromised. My sleep suffered. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., my mind racing with questions. Who was behind the breach? Was it an inside job? Why was the company ignoring it? Did they not understand the severity, or did they understand all too well and were choosing to bury it? After a month of silence, I made my second mistake. I went over Marcus's head and emailed the Chief Technology Officer directly with all my evidence attached. I was professional, factual, and clear about the severity of the breach. His response came within the hour. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Please come to my office at 4 p.m. today. I felt relieved walking into that meeting. Finally, someone was taking this seriously. The CTO, Richard Keller, sat behind his imposing glass desk, flanked by our head of HR, Vanessa Wells. That should have been my first red flag. Rachel, Richard began, leaning forward. We appreciate your enthusiasm for security protocols. This isn't about enthusiasm, I countered. We have a serious data breach that's been ongoing for months. What we have, Vanessa interjected smoothly, is a misunderstanding of how our systems operate. They spent the next 45 minutes explaining that what I'd discovered was actually an authorized data transfer protocol for our new partnership with a third-party analytics firm. They showed me documentation, contracts, everything that made it look legitimate. I almost believed them. Almost. If it's authorized, I asked, why isn't it documented in our security logs? Why are the transfers happening at odd hours? And why is the data being sent to 5 different IP addresses that don't match our partner's network? The room went quiet. Richard exchanged a glance with Vanessa. We appreciate your concerns, he said finally. But I assure you, everything is under control. Perhaps you should focus on your primary responsibilities. I left that meeting knowing 2 things. There was definitely a data breach, and the company had no intention of addressing it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Thousands of customers had their most sensitive financial data exposed, and the people who should be protecting it were covering it up. I thought about the families who might face identity theft, emptied bank accounts, ruined credit scores, people who trusted us with their financial security. I thought about my own family, my parents, who had raised me to always do the right thing, even when it was difficult. My father, a career public servant who had passed up countless opportunities for higher pay in the private sector because he believed in the importance of integrity. What would they think if I just looked the other way? Then there was my sister, Emma, who had just started her first job out of college. We'd had so many late-night conversations about workplace ethics and standing up for what's right. How could I face her if I chose the easy path now? By morning, I'd made my decision. I compiled all my evidence onto an encrypted drive and contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission through their whistleblower program. The process was more intimidating than I'd expected. I had to fill out detailed forms, provide comprehensive documentation, and speak with investigators who questioned every aspect of my claims. They warned me that the process could take months or even years, and there was no guarantee of protection from retaliation despite the laws on the books. Still, the SEC moved quickly. Within days, they had investigators combing through Meridian's systems. The company, suddenly scrambling, implemented emergency security protocols and issued vague statements about potential unauthorized access they were proactively addressing. But internally, things were different. Suddenly, my access to the system logs was revoked. My projects were reassigned. Colleagues who used to chat with me by the coffee machine now avoided eye contact in the hallways. The atmosphere in the office changed dramatically. There were closed-door meetings I wasn't invited to, whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. IT personnel I'd never seen before were suddenly everywhere, installing new security measures and auditing systems. I knew they suspected me, but I had no idea how quickly the retaliation would come. 3 weeks after the SEC began their investigation, I was called into a meeting with HR. The reason? Performance concerns. According to them, my work had been slipping for months. They had documentation, emails taken out of context, projects where deadlines had shifted, minor mistakes blown out of proportion. We're going to have to let you go, effective immediately, Vanessa said, sliding a severance agreement across the table. 2 weeks' pay, in exchange for signing this non-disclosure agreement. The NDA would have prevented me from discussing anything related to the data breach, effectively silencing me while the investigation was still ongoing. I refused to sign. That's your choice, Vanessa said coldly. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Just like that, after 3 years of dedicated work, I was walked out of the building like a criminal. My keycard was deactivated before I even reached the elevator. The security guard who escorted me, Dave, had always been friendly during our morning exchanges. Now, he couldn't meet my eyes as he watched me pack my personal items into a cardboard box. Family photos, my spare pair of shoes, the plant I'd kept alive for 3 years, all hastily thrown together while colleagues peered over their monitors. I'm sorry about this, Dave murmured as we waited for the elevator. For what it's worth, I think you're getting a raw deal. It was small comfort, but in that moment, it meant everything. The next few months were some of the darkest of my life. Finding a new job in financial services proved nearly impossible. Somehow, word had gotten around that I was difficult and not a team player. My savings dwindled as I stretched them to cover rent and groceries. I moved out of my downtown apartment into a smaller place in a less expensive neighborhood, canceled my gym membership, started cooking at home instead of ordering takeout. Small sacrifices at first, but they accumulated quickly. The worst part was the isolation. Friends from Meridian stopped returning my calls. Industry connections suddenly couldn't find time to meet for coffee. I was being professionally blacklisted, and there seemed to be nothing I could do about it. Even my dating life took a hit. Try explaining to someone you just met why you're suddenly unemployed and potentially involved in a federal investigation. Most people hear whistleblower and think troublemaker, not person of integrity. I started seeing a therapist to deal with the anxiety and depression that followed. She helped me understand that what I was experiencing, the loss, the doubt, the fear, was normal. That standing up for what's right often comes with a cost, and that cost can feel unbearable in the moment. You're grieving, she told me during one session. Not just for the job you lost, but for the worldview that was shattered. The belief that doing the right thing would be rewarded, or at least not punished. She was right. I had been naive. I'd believed the systems in place to protect whistleblowers would actually work. That truth would prevail. That integrity mattered in corporate America. 6 months after my termination, I received a call from an SEC investigator. "Ms. Sinclair, we'd like to meet with you," she said. "There have been some developments in the Meridian case." The meeting took place in a federal building downtown. 2 investigators explained that based largely on the evidence I'd provided, they had built a case against Meridian Financial Services. The company had knowingly concealed a massive data breach affecting over 50,000 customers. They had failed to implement required security measures, and worse, had actively hidden the breach from customers and regulators. "The commission is imposing a $15 million fine," the lead investigator told me, "and your whistleblower report was instrumental in this case." Under the SEC's whistleblower program, I was eligible for 10-30% of the monetary sanctions. It would take time to process, they warned me, but eventually I could receive a substantial award. They also explained that their investigation had uncovered internal emails discussing how to handle the Rachel situation. There was clear evidence of retaliation, which was illegal under whistleblower protection laws. I had grounds for a separate lawsuit if I wanted to pursue it. The vindication should have felt better than it did. Yes, Meridian was being held accountable. Yes, I would eventually receive financial compensation that would stabilize my life again. But my career was still in tatters, my professional reputation damaged in ways that might never fully heal. I decided against pursuing the retaliation lawsuit. The thought of spending years in litigation, having to relive the experience over and over in depositions and court appearances, was too exhausting to contemplate. I wanted to move forward, not keep looking back. When news of the fine broke, Meridian's stock plummeted. Former colleagues reached out, some apologetic, others angry that I had betrayed the company. A few admitted they'd suspected something was wrong, but had been too afraid to speak up. The company issued a carefully worded statement acknowledging security lapses and promising to strengthen our protocols moving forward. They never mentioned the cover-up. They never mentioned me. But industry insiders knew. A reporter from the Wall Street Journal called, wanting my side of the story. I declined to comment at first, afraid of further retaliation. But eventually, I agreed to an anonymous interview, sharing my experience without revealing my name. The article, when it was published, painted a damning picture of corporate negligence and the price whistleblowers pay. Other media outlets picked up the story. It sparked discussions about data security, corporate accountability, and the inadequacy of whistleblower protections. Rebuilding wasn't easy. I spent months networking outside the financial industry, leveraging the skills I had in data analysis for companies that wouldn't have heard about what happened at Meridian. Eventually, I found a position with a healthcare data analytics firm, where my experience with security protocols was actually valued. My new employer, unlike many, saw my whistleblowing as a sign of integrity rather than disloyalty. "We want people who will speak up when they see something wrong," my new boss told me during the interview. "That's how we avoid becoming the next cautionary tale." The Whistleblower Award came through 14 months after my termination, 20% of the $15 million fine. After taxes and legal fees, it was enough to pay off my student loans, buy a modest condo, and give me some financial security. Money that came at the cost of my career trajectory and professional relationships. I donated a portion of the award to organizations that support whistleblowers. People who, like me, had sacrificed their livelihoods to expose wrongdoing. People who had been brave enough to speak truth to power, only to find themselves powerless in the aftermath. 2 years after the Meridian incident, I received an unexpected email. It was from a journalist working on an investigative piece about corporate whistleblowers and the price they pay. She wanted to tell my story. After some hesitation, I agreed. When the article was published, something unexpected happened. Instead of more professional backlash, I received messages from people around the country who had been in similar situations. Some had spoken up and lost everything. Others had stayed silent and lived with the guilt. All of them understood the impossible choice I had faced. One message in particular stood out. It was from a new employee at Meridian who wrote, "The company completely overhauled its security protocols after what happened. Every new hire learns about the breach during orientation as a lesson in corporate responsibility. They don't mention you by name, but some of us know the real story. Thank you." That was the moment I finally began to make peace with my decision. I had lost a job, but perhaps helped change a corporate culture. I had suffered professionally, but potentially protected thousands of people from financial harm. Today, I work as a consultant specializing in data security compliance and corporate ethics. Companies hire me to evaluate their whistleblower policies and security protocols, an irony that isn't lost on me. I also volunteer with organizations that support corporate whistleblowers, offering the guidance and support I wish I'd had. I speak at conferences about the importance of ethical corporate cultures and robust security measures. I've testified before congressional committees considering stronger whistleblower protection laws. I've turned my experience into something meaningful, something that might prevent others from facing the same impossible choices. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd just ignored those discrepancies that Tuesday morning. If I'd been less thorough, less persistent. My career would certainly have followed a different path. I might still be at Meridian, moving up the corporate ladder. But I also think about those 50,000 customers whose data was compromised. The SEC investigation revealed that before they stepped in, over 3,000 customers had already experienced some form of identity theft linked to the breach. Real people with real lives dealing with the fallout of a company's negligence and cover-up. I think about one customer in particular, an elderly woman who lost her life savings to identity thieves who used the breached data. She was featured in a news story about the aftermath of the Meridian breach. "I trusted them," she said, her voice breaking. "I trusted them with everything I had." Her words haunt me. Because she's right. Financial institutions aren't just businesses. They're stewards of our most sensitive information, our financial futures, our security. When they betray that trust, the consequences are devastating. The truth is, whistleblowing isn't heroic. It's terrifying. It's isolating. It changes your life in ways you can't anticipate. The protections that exist on paper often fail in practice, leaving you exposed to retaliation that's difficult to prove and harder to fight. Yet, despite everything, if I found myself in that same situation again, staring at those discrepancies on my screen, I would make the same choice. Because some things matter more than job security or professional advancement. Some principles are worth the sacrifice. Last month, I received a LinkedIn request from a former colleague at Meridian, Marcus, my old team lead who had initially dismissed my concerns. His message was simple. "You were right. I was a coward. I'm sorry. I accepted his connection request, but haven't responded to the message yet. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. Some bridges, once burned, can't be fully rebuilt. We met for coffee last week, Marcus and I. He looked older, more worn down than I remembered. He told me he'd left Meridian 6 months after I was fired, unable to reconcile his role in what happened. I knew something was wrong, he admitted. I just didn't want to be the one to say it. I understood. Fear is a powerful motivator. Fear of losing your job, your reputation, your financial security. Fear of standing alone. It's why so many people look the other way when they see wrongdoing. It's why whistleblowers are rare. The data breach at Meridian wasn't just about numbers on a screen or policies violated. It was about trust. The trust customers place in companies that hold their most sensitive information, and the trust employees place in employers to do the right thing when it matters. Both kinds of trust were broken at Meridian. The $15 million fine was just the beginning of what it cost them. The true price, in customer loyalty, employee morale, and company reputation, was much higher. As for me, I'm still calculating my own cost. There's the career trajectory I lost, the professional relationships damaged, the months of financial insecurity and emotional stress. But there's also what I gained: an unshakable confidence in my own moral compass, a new career path focused on preventing what happened at Meridian from happening elsewhere, and the knowledge that when faced with a difficult choice, I chose integrity. That's something no company can take from me, no matter how hard they try. So if you ever find yourself staring at your own version of those discrepancies, wondering whether to speak up or stay silent, know this: the road of the whistleblower is hard. The system that should protect you is imperfect. The personal cost is real. But so is the cost of silence. My name is Rachel Sinclair. I was fired for reporting a data breach, and my evidence led to a $15 million fine. This is the price of doing the right thing in corporate America. It's a price I would pay again.